Hello and welcome to Pussycat Cast number 13, Feminism, Kills Sperm Dead. Today I'm joined by that adorable specter of death, Prim Reaper, and hopefully soon our resident sexpert, Anna Cherry, to look into the impact of feminism's demonization of male sexuality. It seems that when men experience potential repercussions of such negativity, society has a habit of looking for a cause in every way that doesn't involve examining the way men are viewed and treated by society. This week, The Mirror published an article discussing a study done by researchers from Hebrew University Hadassah, I hope I'm pronouncing that right,
Yeah,
Braun School of Public Health and Community Medicine, and the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. And watch me have put the emphasis on the wrong syllable and lengthened the wrong vowels and everything there.
Bowls.
Bowls. Which found that sperm counts among Western men have dropped to an all-time low. The researchers called for analysis to determine the cause, while suggesting that chemicals may be a prime suspect. However, a 2014 article in Medical News Today highlighted a Kaiser Foundation study's finding that stress reduces male fertility. In light of that, perhaps the researchers from the sperm count study ought to take a look at feminist demonization of male sexuality and masculinity. Feminist narratives on intimate partner and sexual violence paint male sexuality as automatically obsessive, domineering, and predatory, while women's sexuality is treated as a natural good that is suppressed by a cruel patriarchal society. This contrast is driven home by university articles like Yale University's Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies at Yale, Reflections, Celebrations, and Visions, which infers that the biggest hurdle to women's gender and sexuality studies is men, then goes on to demonstrate how not hostile the supposedly male-dominated academic world has been to the expansion of women's studies. An expansion which, by the way, was funded mostly by organizations run by men. This follows 6 years of law and policy attacks on the due process rights of men accused of sexual misconduct on university campuses, resulting in numerous cases of falsely accused men being penalized and numerous lawsuits against academic institutions. If that's not enough, men can look into the media for shaming and stress, as there are plenty of writers like Johanna Schneller of the Toronto Metro to use popular television shows to extol the superior maturity of sex with a man whose penis has been removed. No way could it just be part of the drama of the famously gory Game of Thrones series. No way could the moment represent a tenderness within both of the characters overcoming a man's devastating handicap. That couldn't be enough, could it? Nope, it has to be more mature because now it really is all about her. Reverse the sexes on the moment and imagine the outrage-gasm feminists would have over it. But really, it's just a TV show and an article. It's not like there's any real-life effort to normalize cutting male genitals, right? Well, yeah, there is. This week, the House of Representatives voted to add circumcision and ritual animal slaughter, two behaviors that fit oddly well into the same sentence, to the list of things protected under the International Religious Freedom Act of 1998. In contrast, female circumcision is outlawed over the majority of the world, despite the main rationale behind it also being religious. Certainly, chemicals could be a factor if men's sperm counts have dropped, but with stress's confirmed influence, so could feminism's demonizing narrative and the legal and policy changes it has wrought. So with that in mind, have at it.
Okay,
There's
I want
a
to
lot
add.
to unpack there.
I want to add something. Unfortunately, Hannah, there was a paragraph left out. So,
Did I forget to read something?
yeah, that's okay. I can do it. It's also now academia is directly attacking masculinity with initiatives like Princeton University starting with its new interpersonal violence clinician and men's engagement manager, whose job, according to the College Fix, will be to combat aggressive masculinity on campus, where male students have been labeled male student perpetrators and female students labeled victims of sexual harassment, sexual assault, domestic and dating violence, as well as stalking.
Yep,
That's on top of everything else.
I managed to click past it, actually. But yeah, so have at it, Prim.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack there. Like, it really is the case that men can do no right. Like, you've kind of strung together a perfect narrative of, gee, I wonder why men might be having problems with sperm count, problems with sexuality. Like, they can't do anything right in society. Their sexuality is completely demonized pretty everywhere you go. And in universities, they're basically saying, oh, men are always the perpetrators. In TV shows, sex isn't mature unless the guy's dick is lopped off, I guess, because every other article I've seen talking about the aforementioned article, which is about Game of Thrones, has been about how it's always so misogynistic and all the women are abused and like everybody loses their damn minds over what happens to Sansa every damn season.
Yeah, so it's abuse when it happens to women, but it's sexual maturity when you actually cut a guy's dick off. This is what we're dealing with in terms of the social treatment of men. And the psychological impact of this, and it can be seen in a lot of ways. I mean, you look at in Japan, it has hit to a degree. And this is something that's been ongoing for quite some time. And they're not dealing with exactly the same environment because they don't have the university environment necessarily that exists in the United States, but they have other things like the train issue, the commuter train issue, in which men are repeatedly accused by women they've bumped into or been crushed into in crowded trains of groping. And in that particular society, it's a huge shaming factor and a huge reputation issue. Your reputation can be destroyed, your career can be destroyed by somebody accusing you of groping, even if it's, obvious that you were just mashed into them because the crowd was all close together.
Well, no wonder they're requesting separate sex trains now.
It's bad.
Themselves, and men are doing it to protect themselves, and then you kind of wonder why that this is all coincided with Japan's herbivore men phenomenon. It's basically their own version of men going their own way, right?
Right. Well, and I mean, they've gotten to the point of withdrawing from everything, not just from women, but the herbivore men phenomenon has extended into like withdrawing from Japan's culture of excellence, I guess you could say, of achievement, and simply getting by, even going so far as to not move out of mom and dad's house. And it's basically, a complete, not regression, but I would say depression among this group. And all of this can trace back to this demonization. And this is what we're seeing here in the United States as well. Now, with men going their own way, I wouldn't necessarily call it depression. It's definitely, there's dangers that men going their own way here in the United States are reacting to that are significant. You really cannot trust that even just working with a woman without witnesses to stand up for you if she lies, you can get in trouble. You really cannot trust that going to school with a woman, you're not going to get falsely accused of sexual misconduct. You don't even have to actually have done anything with her. And the same thing is true in the UK. The same thing is true in Canada. In fact, in the UK, that's where the Mark Pearson issue occurred with, I don't remember how to pronounce her name, Suad Fares, I think, accusing him of, speaking of Game of Thrones, falsely accusing him of assault, of sexual assault, that you'd have to be a ninja to do. Even a ninja might not be able to achieve it because he was walking past her and allegedly managed to sexually assault her inside her underwear in the space of a second. And of course, he was found not guilty. He was acquitted of that, and it was proved that it was a lie. And she still managed to receive money for this from a system for victims. So, well, we are seeing this demonization of male sexuality, and we're seeing men treated as disposable for the sake of women's sensibilities, while we're seeing things like the toxic masculinity narrative, which is nothing but a generalization of dysfunctional tendencies to men and men only, and gendering them in order to treat masculinity as a toxic thing itself, and blaming them for the social pressures that are put upon them. This is going to lead to repercussions like maybe suppressed sexuality and suppressed reproductive health.
And also, probably it's also the fault of the increase in suicides and things like that. And certainly partially the reason that marriage is going down, but I know that's a bum deal in a lot of other ways for a lot of guys. But
can I?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, you can go ahead.
It's okay. I wanted to pose a question because I want to try and maybe get some perspective on this. So, do we know how much stress could affect men's, fertility or their testosterone levels? I know. Anna, go ahead, because I want to break. I'm going
to let Anna handle this, and I'm going to mute.
I want to contrast this against something else, which is the environmental effects of we're essentially
the phytoestrogens and
the phytoestrogens, exactly, the phytoestrogens, the soy, that kind of thing. So, but
phytoestrogen means plant estrogen, so that's the phyto, what that means. And so we get from soy, and also a lot of times we have chickens, etc., treated with antibiotics and such, and we have runoff that's turning all the fish and frogs transgender for sure. I'm sorry to call up Alex Jones.
Turning the frogs gay.
It's true. There were fish. There's actually a great book that kind of spells out potential disaster path for humans that has to do with fish becoming feminized. And so fish cannot reproduce, and certain species of fish can no longer reproduce because all of them have turned into females because of the estrogen and the hormone runoff in the water from human activity. However, there's a fantastic field of study that I'm really into. It relates to primatology, which I'm very into as well, because it's kind of a history for humans.
Okay, there is a little bit of a problem with your mic, Anna. You want to? I'm gonna just check your connection, or maybe if it's using the wrong one. I don't know if you have multiple connected. I know that's usually my problem. I mean, I heard what you said, but you're kind of quiet compared to everybody else, and it's cutting out a little bit. Go ahead. Oh. While you're figuring that out, Joey Jojo says, I had to drink soy milk as a kid because I'm lactose intolerant. I am too, actually, Joey. So what I would say instead is, if you can't drink straight up milk, you could also there's lactose-free milk, which is delicious, although it's a little bit extra. There's also pills you can take, so you can drink regular whole milk with it. And you could also get other alternatives other than soy milk, such as coconut milk and almond milk. Almond milk's pretty good. Yeah,
and both almond milk and coconut milk have other healthy benefits, and cashew milk as well. They all have other healthy benefits. They've got omega-3 fatty acids that you kind of need. So
and you can push back against the soy that you've absorbed so far, but it's actually quite interesting that that's been getting pushed recently, and it's really not been helpful. Anna, you're still. I see that you're lighting up, but I can't actually hear you. Oh, there you are. You sound good. Now that sounds good. Okay, you go ahead. You're talking about phytoestrogens, so go ahead.
Sure. So yeah, we have, of course, the chemical aspects. What you're wanting to look at is potentially how much of the input is the hormonal and chemical, runoff in water, or just straight up eating it. How we do, and the ways that is changed. And of course, the other option is, or the other side of the debate, or sort of nature versus nurture thing, is stress-related behavior. There's a whole area of study that I really am fascinated with, and it kind of is related to primatology. It kind of starts there, where you have a lot of social defeat studies. And actually, I'm really hoping I could get Richard Rahl in on here because he actually learned more of the the exact studies, and he could cite that a little better. But in lieu of that, there definitely is information out there you can look for yourself about the fact that males in groups of primates, when the older males, or basically in general, when there's stress, you can see specifically social stress. So when you're getting pushed around, when you're getting screeched at, when you're getting put in your place frequently, which is what feminism does to men all the time. The monkeys, the males, their testosterone drops, and they develop behaviors. And it's not just monkeys; it's rats all over the place. Testosterone drops, and because of the social stress, and it's called social defeat, if you want to look that up. And they start assuming mounted positions, so they start presenting themselves as women. So they basically, not only does the sperm count, etc.,
power bottoms,
but so not even power. They just straight up. So actual social stress can lead to the man acting and more like a woman, if that makes sense.
Taking on the submissive role, I guess.
Well, considering everything about traditional masculinity is labeled toxic these days, I'm not at all surprised that they're being socialized to be more feminine.
And also they're surrounded by women for pretty much. Children are basically surrounded and raised by women for their entire young life, unless there's male caregivers, male teachers, and a father and other male relatives present. This is what's going to happen. I'm not, that's...
Well, even that is exceedingly rare, because I'm spending time with my 11-and-a-half-year-old sister. So, and she's talking about, she lived back there in the Mid-South, but, she had a great PE teacher who was a man, who was funny and made everyone feel good, and she loved PE. And then some woman came in who's just throwing her power around, and it sucks. PE sucks now, everything. And it's just, we keep seeing jobs being replaced that were originally meant for men when this, what is it called, affirmative action, I guess, for women initiative that we have going on. We see more and more roles that men used to take in teaching occupied by female roles. So not only do we have boys spending and sinking with women their whole lives, but a straight up social defeat, stress, will change the area of the brain that has to do with mounting behavior. So you go from conceiving of yourself, and obviously testosterone levels as well, they're intricately tied in with that. And so you go from feeling like you're a man, like you're occupied this place, to completely feeling like you're a bitch. And it's just, literally the brain changes in that way because of social stress. And what does feminism and the current narrative do to men other than constantly berate them, constantly say that they're at fault with something, constantly stressing them out? So I have no wonder at all that, forget phytoestrogens and other hormones by themselves, the social defeat is hugely, I think, responsible for the drop testosterone levels in Western men.
And removing men from direct education positions, especially at the elementary level, is a very damaging thing, really, in my opinion. And it's actually harmful to both sexes. I mean, it's kind of a given. Both sexes of child need both sexes of adult mentoring them in order to get a really, really good understanding of how to be an adult, how to adult right, basically. And we've gotten into a societal situation now where, because we have demonized male sexuality so dramatically, and we don't even acknowledge the fact that the type of predatory behavior that people are putting on all men, even though there's not really evidence that it should be put on all men. It is something that it is engaged in by both sexes. It is a minority among both sexes that has real issues behind it, not just something that they do because of their gender. It's actually something they do because they're disturbed and sick, essentially, in some way or another. But what we've ended up with because of this is boys don't have anyone at the elementary school level who understands them and understands how they learn, understands how they deal with, even just the stress of being stuck in a classroom environment where somebody's standing up in front of the classroom going on and on about something that maybe doesn't interest them because it's a lecture instead of a hands-on learning process for them. And this is something that we're seeing evolve. We've watched it evolved from the 70s on as a society, where with more and more women in the classroom as being like the norm, the only thing, and fewer men in the classroom at all, especially, like I said, at the elementary level, you start to get into high school, you see more men in the classroom. But because of this, we're seeing more and more normal, healthy boy behavior treated as though it's pathological, and more imposition of drugs to treat things like attention deficit disorder being imposed on kids that don't have it, and not just used to help the kids that do have it. You're seeing more and more kids getting labeled learning disabled when maybe they simply need a little extra attention in the classroom, or maybe they need a little more leeway in terms of how they deal with their learning process. And so they don't necessarily have a real learning disability, but they're singled out and treated, and it's mostly boys. Boys have more disciplinary problems in the classroom. Boys are more likely to get marked down for the same types of answers that girls are getting, not marked down for.
Girls who act more like boys are also being punished, because that's actually what my sister's going through. She asks questions. She needs, she's different, and they're like, bullying her teachers sometimes. They're actually transferring her to a new school right now because
that's awful.
That
is probably going to do more to keep girls out of STEM than anything, because the type of girls that would want to go into STEM studies are the ones who learn like boys. They're the hands-on girls. They're the questioning girls. They're not the girls that sit in the back of the classroom and giggle over boys. They're the girls that find it fascinating when you accidentally leave a technical manual sitting out, and instead of asking permission to read it, pick it up and start browsing through it. But yeah, this is something that it's harmful to men because it puts a lot of stress on men. It would be terrifying right now to be a man in the elementary education system. It would be absolutely terrifying, and I wouldn't necessarily want to go into that profession at all if I was a guy. But at the same time, it must be horrible to be a boy in the education system, going through the education system right now, knowing that all you have to do is point at someone, or eat your Pop-Tart wrong, or laugh at the wrong time, or ask the wrong question in class, or touch the science project when the teacher hasn't specifically told you to touch the science project, and you're going to get treated like you've done something awful and pounced on. You grow up in an environment like that, and you go through the education system in an environment like that. How are you supposed to develop into a psychologically healthy, well-adjusted adult?
The Pop-Tart reference. Oh my goodness. I remember that story. That was ridiculous. That's the one where he chewed it into a gun, right? And then gotten massive shit over that.
Chewed it, if I remember right, he chewed it into a shape that a monitor, a lunchroom monitor, looked at and said it looked like a gun. If I remember right, he wasn't even like pointing it at anybody. He was just, chewing on it.
But what I was going to get into was, like, you're exactly right. Boys are basically treated like defective girls in elementary school, and the point that you made about them being over-medicated is actually a serious problem. And I wonder how much of an effect that is having on their later sexuality, because that causes all kinds of things to go out of whack. Like, it causes weight gain and breast tissue development and stuff like that kind of continues on even into adulthood. That becomes very difficult.
That doesn't sound like an overage of testosterone. It sounds like an overage of something else.
Don't forget that they're getting accused of sexual harassment now as young as kindergarten.
Yeah. So they're getting
I'm sorry, come the fuck again. What?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, there have been little boys who have been accused of sexual harassment for things like kissing a girl on the cheek. In one instance, there was a boy and a girl that were interacting, and another girl complained because the boy kissed the girl he was interacting with on the cheek, and it was considered predatory behavior. Terribly. They came down on him like he was,
There was another. Sorry, there was one more case of a boy who said that he liked his teacher and hugged her, And I don't remember how old he was, but he was very young. And that was also, I think he was suspended for that or something.
Yeah, they treated him like he was harassing her.
If that's what counts as sexual harassment or like predatory behavior, then I've been a victim of that in elementary school, like for crying out loud.
And you were the predator too, I'm sure.
I was going to say, when I was the predator.
What happened was I was held down, and they were all like, "Oh, this developmentally challenged boy had a crush on me," and people like to tease me over it. And it was kind of a horrible situation, but they all held me down and were like, "Come over here and kiss her." And yeah, like, I mean, that was way worse than what these guys are describing. So I'm sure that the things that they would have to say about that kind of situation these days would be ridiculous.
And kids need to develop emotional immunity. I'm sorry, we have a huge problem with keeping people too sensitive to bubble boy syndrome. Every single feminist is an emotional bubble boy. They've never, ever, ever dealt with anything difficult. They have no idea how to overcome it. They have no immune system against it. It's like kids, there is an element of supposed to be able to horse around with each other, boys and girls, but boys especially are supposed to be able to wrestle, which of course they've started removing that from schools as far as 7 years ago. They already couldn't let boys touch each other at recess, couldn't touch each other. So they could never test their limits. They could never test their strength. They could never ever do the normal developmental things that all humans do. And we're getting more and more insane about the way we're treating children, not letting them be freaking humans.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. I remember the boys at my school when I was in elementary school. I went from a smaller elementary school with an entirely fenced-in, paved playground to a slightly larger elementary school that was next to a grassy field that was always mowed short. And the boys would play sandlot tackle football in that grassy field every recess. Because football was almost a religion in the little town where I grew up, and they would play that same tackle football at the park down the street with boys that were 4 or 5 years older than them. So they were tough. And today the kids can't even play tag. Like, they wouldn't be able to play flag football in that field because the idea of that rough and tumble play is just completely verboten in school systems these days. It's like, how dare these kids have any kind of, wiggles to work out? How dare they? We can't let them work out their wiggles. No, they have to sit and read.
No wonder they're all being diagnosed with ADHD. Half of their recess is being cut out. Like phys ed is being reduced, and
women are teaching phys ed now.
Oh gosh.
Well, now see, I had 2 female phys ed teachers when I was in between. Actually, 3 over the
feminists,
and they
feminists are teaching PE.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a difference depending on the woman. But I also had a football coach in junior high as my phys ed teacher, and like all my phys ed teachers were good up until high school. Now the one woman I had got ousted for an apparent sexual relationship with one of the boys, and that got swept under the rug. Like, big time. She moved on to another school, if I understand correctly. So there you go with the acceptance of female predation while accusing men of being predators. But my early elementary female gym teachers were both very tough. They didn't pull any punches. You didn't slack. You didn't I couldn't wimp out,
Hannah, but I think times have changed.
Yeah, that was the 80s. That was the 80s. I'm 45. I'm a steep slope. So and there's a stark difference between like the way it was then and the way it is now. We used to do gymnastics. We used to do the president's fitness test. You had to see how many sit-ups and push-ups you could do in a minute. And we used to do running, not tests, but basically we'd spend half the class running. She used to work us hard enough that we'd go home sweaty. Both of those gym teachers. And that was part of working your wiggles out. And it was part of just basically keeping the kids healthy. And it was fun because
and
we played
good
dodgeball
when you're an adult,
Yeah. And the boys loved it, and the girls enjoyed it immensely as well. And like those of us that like to play hard when we were kids, we really got into gym class. Gym class was like another recess, and now everything is organized, and everything is obsessively organized, and you can't have any touching. You can't have, like, dodgeball now has special rules. My son's gym teacher had them play dodgeball, but the girls had a set of advantages written into the rules.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I would have been so insulted. You know, my gym teacher when I was in junior high school, the football coach, one time I was slacking and he caught me slacking, and he knew exactly how to get to me. He was like, oh, Hannah, if this is too hard for you, you know, you can go sit down and rest. I understand. I was like, you can't tell me I can't do everything the rest of the other kids can do. And got in there and worked my butt off the rest of the class. It was exactly what I needed.
Well, I wonder
don't
how
get that from a lot of women.
I wonder how recently all of this stuff started to happen, because when I was in high school, which about like 10 years ago, we had all of those kinds of activities in our gym classes too. Like, we had entire classes dedicated to running laps and stuff like that. And it was kind of fun because we could keep track of our improvements, and it was a great energy booster, great exercise. And yeah, so
I think Anna kind of got pretty close to when it probably started happening. Because if you say about 10 years ago, things were still cool. And of course, this is like, we're guesstimating, because it probably started to take effect in certain schools and then like slowly spread over time. So, but Anna Cherry said about 7 years ago. So I'm guessing it's like probably somewhere between 7 and 10 years ago. But it highly likely was going on before that, but it hadn't hit you yet at the time.
Yeah, 7 to 8, they actually had, you know, I knew someone who was in elementary school as, you know, a boy, and they were like, yeah, we just, we can't play tag, we can't touch each other, it's like, can't do anything. And this was, you know, about 8 years ago. So it probably started happening around 15 years ago or so. I mean, it probably started happening even longer in terms of, you know, how coming from a different country, I guess, to America or to California or in general to USA, you have sort of understandings of the place that local people may not, like Americans may not see themselves that way, but foreigners coming in kind of have a different perspective because of how things are back home. And so the legislative nature of California, that, you know, you literally cannot be a good Samaritan, that was like the biggest to because when we came here, there were a bunch of lawsuits about that. The lady with the hot coffee was a lawsuit as well, though in her case, she actually may have a point. But other cases cropped up around there, and it was a big industry of lawyers suing people for instance, you fell on the street and somebody comes by and tries to help you, and that person who tries to help you will get sued for hurting. Yeah. And so we were told, like, don't touch anybody, don't help anybody, and I was just like, what kind of world is this? Are we in Mordor? What's going on?
There's some places that have good Samaritan laws basically to protect you under those circumstances, but not every place does. Now, so I got to say something about the coffee lawsuit, though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I got to make a clarification on that, because with her having a point and everything, there's a limit to how much of a point she has, simply because the state does have a regulation basically saying how hot coffee has to be. It has to be over a certain temperature, and then it has to be under a certain temperature above that. And that's like, Ohio does the same thing. Pretty much every state has a temperature range. If you serve coffee to the public, it has to be in that temperature range. And that temperature range is hot enough to burn you. And the reason for that is coffee is made from beans. Okay, so there's the potential, if you don't keep it in a proper temperature range like any other hot food, and you let it sit out as long as it is often allowed to sit out in places that serve coffee. Because a lot of places, like after a half an hour, it starts to really get bitter, but a lot of places let their coffee sit a lot longer than that. So they have to take that into right. So you're dealing with a situation where they have to deal with the lowest common denominator of quality, and they have to be sure that people are not going to get food poisoning because they got a cup of lukewarm coffee that has like botulism or salmonella or something growing in it. And on that note, never, ever, ever get creamer from the cold creamer machines. And I'm not going to describe why, because it's not the topic of this show. Just don't do it. Don't do it. If you can't see, if it's not a clear serving, if the tube that it comes out of, or the piece that it comes out of is not clear and you can't see through it, don't get it. Just get the little buckets, the little
plastic things.
Yeah, little plastic things.
Can I
real quick, just on the lawsuit.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't remember, and I agree with that. The temperature was completely within the limits, but I do seem to remember, and I could be entirely wrong, but it had something to do with the fact that they didn't offer her something or other, and so she had to like put it in her lap, and then she got like 3-degree burns, had to have skin grafts.
Cup holder, probably. They probably didn't offer her.
I think it was some sort of side issue, wasn't just the temperature.
Yeah, that makes sense, although to be honest, it's not that hard to ask for a cup holder. And most cars have cup holders, and
a thing that's like, it was hot, and you didn't say it was hot, and you didn't give her a thing, and she literally had to have skin grafts and like a lot of medical.
Well, putting that between your legs is not really a good choice.
Speaking of putting things between your legs,
but yeah, this goes back to the between your legs thing. I'm going to interrupt everybody because Brian had his name in to address the discussion on testosterone, and I want him to get a chance to talk.
All right, cool. So like, there were some people in the chat that were basically saying, "Oh my God, I've been drinking, soy products like my whole life or for a really long time." And
you have to ingest a lot of it, but
But I mean, like, if you've been doing it over the course of like 30 years or something, it does have an effect. And it's not just that you've been, say, drinking like soy milk, but there are environmental factors and the stress that we've been talking about. So if you think that you may be having issues with testosterone and you're male, so I'll speak to that part, not to say that women don't also need testosterone, but fortunately, guys, we actually have the ability to give women testosterone. But I can get into that afterwards. But if you are experiencing that, just so you know, even in my condition, where I only have one testicle, it's actually more than enough to give me the testosterone I need, but the other factors can still play in. Now, here are some ways that you can increase your testosterone even now. Of course, as you get into your middle age, your testosterone levels are going to drop naturally. That's just like a part of growing old. But here are some things that you can do to replace your testosterone. First of all, you should avoid the estrogen mimicking compounds that you find in food, water, and environmental pollutants as often as possible. The food stuff is easy to do. Just be on the lookout for that. The FDA and basically the U.S. government has an interest in keeping us eating the grains that we grow here, but do what you can to avoid doing that, because it's not about the concern for your actual health, and the soy is ever present, so it's kind of hard to avoid, but try it. But what you can do to increase your testosterone: 1, lose weight, work on it, diet, engage in high intensity exercise like peak fitness, combine that with intermittent fasting. I actually do intermittent fasting myself. I went to the gym all the time, but when the cancer came, I had to deal with it in terms of going to the hospital and getting, surgery. So I couldn't really do a lot of physical labor for a while. But now that I'm starting to heal and things are semi-normal as I'm approaching the time to do some the chemo and stuff, I'm also going to try to go to the gym again like I used to. So try to do that. The high impact peak fitness routines are things like warming up for 3 minutes, then exercise as hard and fast as you can for 30 seconds. You should feel like you couldn't possibly go on another few seconds. Then recover at a slow to moderate pace for 90 seconds. Then repeat about 7 times or until you're exhausted. Consume plenty of zinc. The mineral zinc is important for testosterone production, and supplementing your diet for as little as 6 weeks has been shown to cause a marked improvement on testosterone amongst men with low levels. Also, engage in strength training, if at all possible, and optimize your vitamin D levels. Reduce stress, which we could get into in terms of how you could do it, but there are lots of ways to do it. Limit or eliminate sugar from your diet. I try to limit it myself. I like sugar in certain things, so it's hard to eliminate completely, but I've limited it a lot.
Can I cut in for just a second?
Yeah.
Also, huge ditto on sugar, absolutely. That it not only does it cause health issues like when your liver can't process enough sugar, your liver can only process so much sugars, and we have sugar added to like chicken noodle soup, to tomato soup, to everything, to bread. And so you have to always read the label. And when your liver has too much sugar that it can handle, it converts into fat. And not only is it that, but then of course you get insulin insensitivity or sensitivity. Either way, you get diabetes. And not only that, but it actually blocks the absorption of omega-3 and other nutrients through the blood-brain barrier. So sugar makes you dumb.
Also,
sugar has all kinds of bads.
I wanted to say about zinc. Zinc is important, but sometimes I will say there is a word of caution. It is one of the ones that you can not overdose. I don't want to use that word, but it can cause an imbalance, because when you have too much zinc, it depletes your copper. So you have to make sure that when you're getting zinc, you're also getting copper in your diet.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah, and I'm going to interrupt just something too. Regarding testosterone,
I can send you guys something to add to the low bar to talk more about the zinc copper issue, because there's a sweet spot that you got to hit. So it's a certain dosage that I'd like to.
Okay, just put it in the admin live show chat, and then I'll move it to the low bar.
Regarding the discussion on testosterone, one of the things that I've noted in previous articles I've read, and the only place I can find it immediately right now is WebMD, but I've seen this in other places. And it's been pointed out that low testosterone is related to a whole range of other health issues, but it's not considered a cause of these issues, but a symptom of these issues. So the things that Brian's talking about that you do to increase your testosterone are all, you notice, they're all things that would increase your overall health. And it seems that doing the things that it takes to remain physically healthy, physically fit, mentally healthy, and so on, will keep your testosterone level at the correct level, at a healthy level. I'm not seeing a lot in terms of, now testosterone can affect some things. There's an association, for instance, between low testosterone and heart conditions that actually may be more of a causative link, although it's not listed in this article. But it is definitely, it's like your little canary in a coal mine. If you find out you have lower testosterone, that may be because you have some of these other issues like diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity, high blood pressure, things like that. And alleviating those things, doing the things that you need to do to alleviate those things, can help to fix the problem.
Yeah, thanks for that, Hannah. So another one that you could do is eat healthy fats. So your body does require saturated fats from animal and vegetable sources, but there's also some other healthy fats. For example, olives and olive oil, coconuts, coconut oil, butter made from raw grass-fed organic milk. You can get that for a lot cheaper than it sounds.
Avocados.
Avocados, egg yolks, grass-fed meats, palm oil, organic nut oils, and
make sure it's cage-free and no
pun intended on the nut oil
eggs.
thing. And raw nuts such as almonds, pecans, Brazil nuts. I eat those too. And lastly, boost your.
Be careful with Brazil nuts. You can actually overdose on vitamin A if you eat too many of them. But
I don't usually have too many. A couple a day or something sometimes.
Or selenium. I'm not sure what it is exactly in it, but those are the ones that you gotta watch out. You can't, like, it's like 10 a day or something.
And
my understanding, the best 3 nuts to eat, if you're not allergic to any of them, are cashews, almonds, and walnuts. Those are the ones that my dad's heart doctor recommended.
Yeah. And guacamole is fucking delicious. So like, if you can get some guac, do it.
But you want to read it. You want to read the package.
Oh no,
I
was gonna say no. Like I usually get it. Like there's a Mexican restaurant close to my house. I go there and they make it fresh right there. Or you can get the ingredients and do it yourself. It's actually really easy. And it's a lot cheaper because avocados are one of those things that the prices fluctuate a lot depending on the season, and because it's also basically an import from Mexico. So, it changes, but if you can do it yourself, it's really not hard, and it's really useful to make things from scratch. It feels good to do, and you find out how easy it is and how much you're being overcharged when you buy it from a restaurant or a grocery store. But this way, you know what's going into it. So
you can tweak it. You can tweak the recipe to make it taste the way you want it to taste too.
Yeah. And then, so the last things I wanted to get back to is boost your intake of branched chain amino acids, or BCAA, from foods such as whey proteins. I actually have one of those big giant containers of whey shake, powder. I'm gonna get. When I was going to the gym, my girl was making them for me because she has a lot of experience making these things. So, and we would like tweak it, and they taste good. I mean, they're good. And when you start, this is good stuff, because I'm all about, like, if you're a man and you want to feel like a man, then don't be afraid to do what it takes. And I think that all this stuff, like Hannah said, it's not just something that is for men. I mean, women can do these things too, and it'd be good for them. And by the way, going back to that thing I said before, I believe that when men have sex with women, they actually increase women's testosterone as well. So this is not bad.
Well, it's not just that, but actually they've done some studies with semen. Yeah, it does. Contact with semen through the skin, or of course if you absorb it through other orifices. I would suggest internally, not orally, because then it goes through the stomach and the acids and not as good. But through the skin and through the mucus lining of your lower bits, you can absorb not only the testosterone, but it actually increases serotonin and other levels. So it's literally an antidepressant. Male cum is an antidepressant. That's why we move follow up.
Yeah. So, do those things, man. Lift, bro. It's not as, I noticed that there's a lot of shaming going around, like especially on feminist spaces, about, men that care about their health and want to go to the gym and all that. And they basically turn them into these weird, like, meathead stereotypes. And the thing is, I've been going to the gym for a while, and there are some people like that. But for the most part, most people, men and women, that go to the gym and they just want to take care of themselves. It's not this thing that they've made, and I don't know why people. I know why. It's probably got something to do with the body positivity movement, but there is no shame in going to the gym. So just do it.
Well, plus they shame for meatheads, but they also shame for, like, overweight loser virgin guys as well.
And they also shame for women who go to the gym. They basically call them attention whores and shit. You can't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You're damned if you don't, so might as well do.
Yeah.
There's a stark difference between groups of women at the gym too, because like my husband and I and our son, we go to the gym. We kind of have to. Each one of us has health conditions that if we don't do some form of exercise, they're just going to get worse throughout life. I'm probably going to have to do something myself through, like, I'll be in a nursing home having to have an exercise program so that I can breathe. That's just the way it's going to be. So, and I go in there and I'm like, just like when I was on the cross country team and I was the last runner in every race, and I'm a wimp at the gym. And I don't, that's just the way it is. Nobody ever picks on me for it or anything like that. And I look around, I'm in there in my cruddy hand-me-down shorts and my hand-me-down t-shirts and for the longest time, hand-me-down shoes too. And I look around and there's a lot of girls in there that are dressed just like me, that are working their asses off. And like me, they're a little fat and they're trying to get rid of it. And, and then at the other end of it, there's two separate classes of gal in the gym, and the majority of the really like pro types, are very, very healthy looking, younger and middle-aged women who go in. They don't, like, they talk to the people that they're there with, people they're friends with, and they do their thing, and maybe they have a spotter and whatever, and then you have these girls that come into the gym in the skimpiest thing that they can find, with their ass hanging out and their cleavage showing and their hair done up, and they never break out a sweat the whole time they're there. And you see them walking around, but they don't really do much of anything except for play around on their phones.
Yep,
and get looked at and
I've
leave.
seen that.
And I had like, how the hell do they even stay in shape?
But that's the minority.
Like, for every one of those I've run into at the gym, there's like 20 or 30 of all the other girls. So this idea of girls going to the gym to get attention, no. Most people don't even pay attention to the chick that walks around with her ass hanging out because they're busy exercising, and to be honest, there's like maybe one guy that's doing the same thing. Those two will find each other and go off somewhere and then be fine. So the whole rest of society going to the gym is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, or go to the park. If you don't like to be in an organized environment, go hiking, go walking, play Pokemon Go.
Yeah,
despite
you don't
the
even
connectivity issues.
You don't even have to get a gym membership. You can just
No.
use the money that you would spend on a gym membership and get a couple of like hand weights or an exercise bike. Like that's how I do it at home. I don't have to go out anywhere. I can just exercise at home. Even just now, this conversation makes me want to get up and do some squats.
Those women probably work out somewhere where they can't be seen because they're too embarrassed to be seen working out, and then they go to the gym to be seen by the guys. But don't you dare assume that, you sexist.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
And like, I go in there and lifting low amounts of weight compared to everybody else, and I'm coming out of there and my shirt is just soaked. and I sound like
yeah,
you know?
But like that's the thing, like nobody, the judgment doesn't really happen.
Nobody
like
cares.
This is what everyone's expecting or they're worried about. And one other thing about, you know, like you don't necessarily have to get a gym membership, I agree, but you know, you can go to the park, you can get some stuff, you know, and do it at home, whatever. You don't have to you know, use weights. You could just use your body weight to do the you know, the strength training stuff. But your body, your health is worth it. Like, you have to think about what you spend your resources on and consider that maybe your personal health is worth that extra amount of resources if you have it, and that extra time. And another thing is that if you are a man, you might be wondering this, because I've been wondering this, what does your sperm count look like? And also, what are your testosterone levels? You can get those things tested, and maybe you want to look at them. Because I got to tell you, there's nothing like feeling masculine when you are a man. If you don't know, you might not know what it's like. Maybe you've just never felt like that, you know. But I got to tell you that in the last, I don't know, like the last year or so, I've been feeling really, I can't describe it any other way. It feels really masculine. I think it's a great feeling as a man, right? So go and figure that out, guys. I mean, I think that you'll be happy. And if you're not happy now, maybe that's something you could look into. Maybe you'll be happier. So don't be afraid to check your sperm counts and check your testosterone levels if you can.
And while we're talking about health and like, I want to point out that, you know, we mentioned elementary school and the lack of male mentoring there. We mentioned, you know, the lack of male mentoring in other areas where basically kids are stuck. This is something that, like, if you're a parent, you got kids, or you're a family member of a young child, and you want to help support, particularly boys in developing healthy masculinity and everything, and you are aware of men in mentoring positions in their lives, you know, be supportive. You know, be supportive of the kid, respecting this mentor, you know, and be like, especially if you're dealing with, sometimes moms have a really bad habit of, if a male mentor is tough on their kid, like maybe their football coach or their gym teacher, or their, you know, one of their other male mentors in there, they give the mentor a rough time instead of helping the boy deal with the challenge of meeting the mentor standards, even when the standards are fair. Because they're standards a lot of women never faced when they were little girls. And so if you find out that maybe mom is giving the gym teacher a rough time for pushing the kid to work harder in gym class, and you know, you think that maybe she's being unfair to the gym teacher, speak up. Say, oh, when I was a kid, my gym teacher, you know, pushed me and everything. And it may feel rough on the kid, but boys need that. And explain why. You know, if you have the opportunity, if you're close enough to mom to have that talk, do it, because boys need your support. Stand up for them. Stand up for the boys in your lives. having their male mentors. You know, and if you're a parent and you've got a boy going to school and there's no men in the school, look into little league sports, look into other areas, Boy Scouts, 4-H, someplace where you can even sometimes if you can get involved in church activities, there can be a lot of good male mentors in church camps and Bible study courses and stuff like that. If you're a religious person and your kid is lacking in male mentors outside the family, get involved in a program like that, where you can take your kid and your kid can interact with adult men that are maybe not the ones that they're around all the time, so they get some perspective. And this is something that we've lost in society. That it's very important for little boys to have. So that's my sort of my spiel on helping little boys develop healthy masculinity in a society where they've lost a good chunk of the male mentoring that they normally would have had. You know, and there's a lot of groups. You can, if you look around your area, you'll find they don't necessarily have to be any particular thing. They don't have to be camping. They don't have to be scouts. They don't have to be camp. They don't have to be 4-H, but they can be whatever suits your family's lifestyle. There are art programs that have male mentors. You know, there's all kinds of stuff. Look around. And I think with that, unless anybody else has anything else to add, I think we could probably end the show.
All right. Well, do we want to?
Wait.
Well,
Is there another thing?
Hold on.
Yeah, I did actually want to mention.
I have something too.
Okay.
Cool. Well, earlier was something, we were going on a totally different sort of train of thought, but something jumped out at me that I wanted to touch on when Hannah mentioned, well, just the whole topic, even the demonization of male sexuality, and that absolutely is a thing for sure. We obviously see examples of like Lena Dunham's a great example. She wrote stuff in her book where she was 7 years old in bed next to her 1-year-old sister doing stuff. If a boy was 7 years old next to his 1-year-old sister and said that he felt horny and he wanted to touch himself and he did so with his sister next to him, he would be in prison at 7 years old. Absolutely.
Boys in kindergarten that hug their teachers or kiss fellow students, they're pedophiles.
And that woman who's suing her, the guy that she raped, the little, not raped, but like, they had a teacher-student relationship and then she went to prison for it because of statutory rape. And now she's suing her victim for whatever it is she's suing him for. Is just, so yes, it's definitely male sexuality, expression of sexuality is demonized. So male expression of sexuality, that is. But we also have male innate, just the fact of male sexuality. So you have people saying like, oh, well, guys just like, they can be a stud because he fucked many girls, but like if a girl has sex with many guys.
Anna, can you get closer to your mic?
Oh, sorry, I'm making a voice. But no, it's just, there's an idea that, when a guy has a relationship with many women or like sleeps with many women, he's a stud. And so some feminists point out that that's a double standard that is somehow proof that there's male privilege. But in fact, I would like to say that it's not just male demonization of male sexuality. I think it is devaluing of male sexuality. Nobody cares. In fact, not only does nobody care about male sexuality, but they think it's some sort of onus on them. They think it's something like, oh guys, it's horny again. Oh my God, is it the penis and the So it's not only is it demonized, but it's like tired old shoot that nobody wants. While female sexuality is wildly upheld and valued, which is why people give women crap for giving it away too easily, therefore being a slut. But when a guy gives away his, then they don't give a fuck. In fact, they're like, oh, just get that out of my face.
A key that opens many locks is a master key. A lock that opens by many keys is just a shitty lock.
But there's one thing I want to point out regarding the whole stud narrative. Feminists say that, and they're telling a half truth, okay? Because the term player is not a compliment, and that exists because women consider themselves owners of men who they have sex with.
To younger women, some of them will.
Well, no, it's not a compliment to the man. It is essentially the same thing as back in the day, calling him a cad. This is a criticism of a guy for sleeping around, because he's not
bounder.
perceived as respecting and maintaining loyalty to the women that he sleeps with. A guy who sleeps with a woman has no claim on her. He's not allowed to have any jealousy. He's not allowed to have any attachment that she doesn't give him permission to have. If she wants to have sex with him and move on, that's her business. She's an empowered woman, blah, blah, blah. You can't call her a slut, blah, blah, blah. A guy who sleeps with a woman and then wants to move on to another woman, if she doesn't want him to move on, he's a bad dude. He's not allowed to do that either. He's not allowed to not have an attachment if she wants him to have an attachment. He's not allowed to not get jealous if she wants to make him jealous. He's not allowed to have an interest in anybody else. He's not allowed to be an empowered guy. He's a player. He's a cad. He's a male slut. He's whatever else you want to come up with.
A lout.
Yeah.
A rascal.
And
a cur.
Advantage of her and
right. This is another situation where it's a catch-22 for guys, because they get told by some people, you got to do this to be a man. You're not a man if you can't get laid. And then they get told by other people, that if they sleep around, that they're hurting women and they're bad. So, which is true. And then the reality of it is, it really shouldn't be up to women whether a guy sleeps around or not. It really shouldn't be up to women whether a guy doesn't sleep with them at all. It shouldn't be up to women whether a guy develops an attachment or not. To be honest, a guy should base his sexual choices on what's healthy and desirable for him. And
like the
society
same
doesn't allow that
themselves to.
Well,
yeah.
Another word for cad and all those things is carpetbagger, which is actually quite appropriate when you think about it.
God, carpetbagger.
I wanted to say something else, because in the read up there was mention of a House of Representatives thing. We have to mention this. So the U.S. House passes religious freedom bill protecting circumcision and ritual slaughter. Under the 1998 Religious Freedom Act, the circumcision thing has to be fought against. I don't think this is passed. It says they passed it, but I don't think it's become a law yet. So if you can, this is a really good example of the religious right clearly overreaching and doing some fucked up shit. So
yeah,
fight them on this if you can. This is bullshit. Circumcision is brutal. And you know what? These are the same people that would likely make an argument against another religion that we might be familiar with that does genital mutilation to women. And yet they don't have a problem not only with circumcision existing, but they want to essentially make it law. They want to pass it into law. So we have to fight that. It's bullshit. We don't allow female genital mutilation here in the States. We should not allow male genital mutilation either. And I just had to make a mention of that.
This is not difficult to do. If you just do a quick Google search for contact your representative, contact your federal representative, and contact your federal senator, the first things that come up in the Google search are going to be how to contact your senators and your representatives, and you can contact them via email. A lot of them have phone numbers that you can call and leave messages with their messaging service. You can send a letter to a physical address. Some of them have fax numbers that you can fax to. A lot of them have Twitter accounts that you can tweet to. this is a big deal. It's something that this is a power that you have as an ordinary citizen that, in some countries people can't do this. So we ought to exercise it.
Absolutely. I think Anna I think she was going to say something. No?
No,
no.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, in our chat here, apparently Allison is a lumberjack.
And that's
There we
okay.
go.
That's okay.
Anyway, what I was just going to say was a lot of people should speak up against this, because when I was doing research on this topic, I found a surprisingly large amount of articles that are saying, oh, it's on the decline and this is a bad thing for these bullshit reasons. And so there's clearly a lot of misinformation still being spread about this sort of thing. So a lot more people need to be standing up against it and talking about it.
Yep. Agreed. And the fact that we're so like easy to just be like silent on this. I mean, this is what male privilege looks like, I guess.
Yeah. So. Well, I want to point out one other thing. I'm going to plug my old and decrepit, highly neglected blog, breakingtheglasses.blogspot. If you go to breakingtheglasses.blogspot.com, on the sidebar of the page is a link to Intactivist links. That is a full page full of links to articles and studies and other information on the topic of Intactivism. And it's got everything. It's like the first two things, of course, that I put on there are my own writing, that a lot of it references the later links, where I basically put together several of the arguments people make for circumcision and addressed them in a two-part article. But the rest of the links on there's medical links, there are scientific links, there are blogs with criticism of various arguments, there are discussions on the religious nature of circumcision. There's Jewish intactivism, and there are links to examples of that. And there are the same medical arguments for male circumcision are made for female circumcision in countries where it's still emphasized and still legal and still promoted. And so I've got some links to that information as well, that if it's a bullshit argument for female circumcision, then it's a bullshit argument for male circumcision too. So and I still haven't put that set of links anywhere other than on the Breaking the Glasses blog. But if you need resources for discussing this, that is a location for them. breakingtheglasses.blogspot.com. Look for Intactivist links on the page. Click on that, and you'll have a plethora of links to information.
And since we're plugging things, I'd like to plug our upcoming show. We're going to be doing a cherry stem on autism. Speaking of girls, they're a little more like boys, and we'll be doing that sometime this month. I believe it's been scheduled for the 20-something, and it will be on my channel and a cherry on top, and then there will be a shortened, sexy video uploaded to HBR. So we're doing a live show on my channel, and then we're doing a export to HBR. So go ahead and follow me on YouTube if you have not already. And that concludes the end of my show. Thank you.
I might as well do one too while we're at it. So tomorrow we're going to be doing a stream-a-thon. Basically, it's going to be a marathon stream for as long as we can, just like we did to fund Australia. What?
Quiplash?
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be Quiplash for sure. So we did a stream. I did one last time to fund Australia, and it was like 12 hours. I hope I don't have to do it that long. It was exhausting. But I'm going to do it for as long as I can, and it's essentially to try to get the next stretch of our fundraiser, because since I found out, that my cancer is aggressive and it will require me to do the full 4 rounds of chemo plus a surgery at the end, it's going to be a rough journey, according to even my doctor, who normally, I guess, would have been, let's say, whatever the opposite of hyperbolic is when it comes to trying to explain what bad news, she said this is... Yeah, no, the pragmatic is more like, I'm just going to tell you the truth. This is just what it is. But I was thinking about more being like extremely...
like downplaying it?
Yeah, like downplaying it, right. Like basically saying, oh, it's something that we deal with, but some people do it really well. I think you can, but no. She was like, this is going to be brutal. And I was like, okay. So it's going to be brutal. So we're going to try and raise money to help, because the thing is, once this is over, I don't know how much this is going to cost. And even though I have a plan that covers most of it, there will be something left over. In addition to that, Honey Badger Radio itself is probably, depending on how out of commission I'm going to be, I may not be able to do the show, and I do a lot of the work in the back room. So Allison, we may have to pay someone else to do this work, while at the same time trying to help me recover and make sure that I can keep my bills paid and my lights on while I'm doing so. So tomorrow we're going to be doing that. I'm going to try and get on some guests. I know that we got some confirmations from some folks that you guys might know from YouTube. So we will be doing that tomorrow, and I hope to see you there. It will be on Karen's channel, and that'd be the last thing I'd say to that.
Drop me an invite, and when I got a moment, I'll definitely drop by.
Okay.
We're actually
same here.
My parents.
It'll be done. I'll be doing it through Google Hangouts because it's the only way that I could get everybody in. So instead of Discord.
Yeah, we're on Lake Tahoe right now, so I'm like phoning in from my new vacation, but I definitely be there tomorrow when we got a moment away from family time, for sure.
You can trade me places. I'm in Ohio, and it's humid here.
No, thank you.
In the middle of a work week.
What's a work week? My parents took us out here. I'm not even planning this vacation. It's like full on, but like back to like a kid mode. It's great.
Oh, whatever. Have fun though.
Sorry, I didn't mean to rub in your face.
No, that's okay. But yes, definitely tune in tomorrow, everybody, for that. Is there any further announcements or anything?
Does Reaper want to show something? Because
yes, does Reaper want to show something?
Well, I mean, I guess that I could, since everybody else got a turn to. Basically, we're doing another cafe event on August 12th, which is a Saturday, and I can link that so that we can put it in the low bar too if you want to. But I'll be doing a little bit of a speech and just meeting with people in Calgary. So if you're interested, you can follow the eventual link that will be on there, and you can come and join me. There we go.
Oh, there was one other thing. Drinking also lowers your testosterone, so try not to do too much.
Yeah, and so basically, don't get plowed. There's some double-edged information.
So that's why Kevin is Karen.
There we go.
He used to be Kevin, but
if you are going to drink darker lager type beers, darker brews in general, they're more likely to have sulfur, which is good for your heart. And so if you are going to drink, like drinking that dark bitter stuff that chicks usually avoid, don't drink the fruity girly drinks. Who is it? Grade A Under A was making fun of that. I'd like to have something fruity sometime. Why do I always have to drink something called bitter? But that actually that pint of bitter might be better for you. It's just not good to save up all of your healthy doses of alcohol during the week and consume all of them on the weekend. That's bad. But it's not bad to drink a little.
Bitter.
Yeah. It's you're less likely to like guzzle it. But
that's why you should never ever take tequila shots with some cinnamon and orange slices instead of salt and lime, because that's snickerdoodles. It'll get you effed up.
That might give me hives. I have some indication I might be allergic to tequila, along with everything else.
Maybe it's the agave, because it's always made out of the agave plant. So,
yeah. So, which is why I've never tried the agave sweetener. But in any case, yeah, gotta plug the dark beer. And somebody goes Guinness in a chat. That was Agent Smith.
Yeah,
said,
that's Richard Rawls' favorite. Gotta have your Guinea.
Yeah, that's a good one. To consume if you're going to drink.
Stouts and ports, they're nice. They got sometimes a lot of chocolatey flavor. I don't remember which ones. I think port is browner and stout is blacker.
Red wine is okay. Red wine is okay too.
Yeah, just don't overdo it. Overdoing anything is a dumb idea. There's no substitute for moderation.
Right.
But And I'm going to take us out of the show, but I'm going to do so with one more plug. We talked about contacting your representative, and we talked about things that you can do. Like here, we've talked about a situation that just plain sucks. And it's a downer to talk about these situations, and it is important to talk about ways that, well, what can we do about this? How can we help remedy this circumstance? And, mentioned supporting mentors and, the things you can do to help alleviate the testosterone issue and so on. But in terms of teamwork as a movement, being able to get together and work on a project, being able to get together and work on maybe getting information out on a particular topic, being able to provide people with information like the links page I plugged, being able to organize a group contact, activism. Of that grassroots community activism, that takes a hub, which we talked about on the last show, MHRA Connect. And I think that's going to be a great hub for the community to plan and execute various projects for trying to get information out, for trying to get legislative reform enacted, for trying to assist individuals when there are circumstances for which they need assistance. So I would say, let's see if I can, it's mhraconnect.com, and go sign up. Go look at the projects that people already have started. If you have a project in mind, this is a place to find people with whom to collaborate. And so check it out, mhraconnect.com. And with that, I think we can end the show for real this time, just as soon as I find the damn button.